Welcome back to Some Days Soon. Today we are joined by some Central New York coffee royalty. At least in my book, if you ask me, we have the owner and founder of Simple Roast Coffee Co. We have Matt Peirson today. Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me in. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I was kind of saying to you before we started, I'm a huge fan of Simple Roast.
Thank you.
You know, since you opened, I'm from Auburn, so I remember the Hut's opening, and kind of just been locked in ever since. So I'm super excited to sit down and talk to you about this. But
yeah, thanks for thinking of me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, bring us back before, these days we're sitting in your cafe right now, which we will get to. But let's take it back quite a bit before then, even before the Huts. This all kind of started as a coffee roasting hobby for yourself. When you started roasting coffee, what was the inspiration behind it? And was it a hobby at the time, or was it something that you were hoping could transition into something business-wise?
Yeah, truly it was a hobby. There was no thought for sure that this was ever going to lead to any of this. I started out brewing beer in college with a friend, which, in college makes sense because how can I get beer cheaper, right?
Yeah.
And I had a great time doing it. I loved the creative outlet for it. I was not very good at it. I had a couple failed batches and was like, this is tough, right? And then, I was working at a desk job and thinking about other hobbies that I could do. Coffee roasting came up. I think I found it on like a subreddit that seemed really interesting. And so I think at 22 years old, which seems silly now, asked my parents for a coffee roaster for my birthday present. And for some reason they obliged and were like, sure,
Wow.
We got you this thing.
Yeah.
They didn't know anything about it. I didn't really, to be fair either, just that I wanted to give it a shot and I didn't really have the money to buy one. And it really took off from there. I just really fell in love with roasting coffee and just figuring out all of these different origins and coffee from different countries and what they tasted like and how roasting it slightly differently made it taste different. And I just sort of fell in love with it. Just got hooked.
Yeah, shout out to mom and dad. The birthday present at
seriously.
22. I mean that's a big thing too. Like just someone being there to kind of foster like this is something you want to do, even if just for a hobby at the time. Like that's a huge deal to kind of like give that recognition that this is something worth doing.
Yeah, and that's been a constant in my life. My parents are like big time cheerleaders. Like they may not understand what I want to do. Like for them, me saying I want to quit my day job and go start a coffee business was like so foreign to their core beliefs. Like they were like, get a steady job and steady benefits and like that's it, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me to have that and say I don't want to do that anymore was very much like, what are you doing? But they still supported it. They were still awesome.
Right.
So.
I feel like I have some similarity there. Like my parents are incredibly supportive, but I don't know that they always understand, right? Like it's like, I want to do this thing, and they're like, you'll get a great job, and like, so it is always interesting to kind of navigate that, even just with friends that maybe have more of a traditional mindset as well,
right?
So when you started roasting coffee, at what point did you decide like I should start selling this, giving it away? Like, did you just have so much of it that you just needed to get rid of it, or were you like, I just needed an extra couple bucks, I'm going to start selling these things, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so I think it pretty quickly grew to like, I want to buy more coffee from different countries. And if I'm going to do that, I need a way to sell all of this coffee that I'm getting in. Like I'm roasting more than I could possibly drink, right? And I can't afford to just give it away to everybody because then I can't afford to order more. So I started selling to like family and friends initially and being like, hey, this is like fresh. You're going to notice like a difference in this between like what you get at the grocery store. And it's like roughly the same price. Just trying to like fund my new project and hobby. And people really liked it. And then I think at some point somebody said like, it's pretty easy to get a booth at a farmer's market. And I was like, okay, I can give that a shot and like see how it goes. And ended up setting up at the Casanova farmer's market and like sold out the first week with like 20 bags of coffee or something.
Wow.
And I was hooked. I was like, yeah, that's some money in my pocket. And like people are this new thing that I really want to do and I'm interested in, they want to pay me for it. That's great.
Yeah.
Like,
that's the dream.
That's the dream. Right. And so I just kind of built from there. And like every week I started bringing more coffee, and then the coffee roaster wasn't big enough to keep up with what I was doing in demand. So I had to like figure that all out. It just very organically grew from there.
When you had that click of like, this could be something that I do for business, this could be like something I do full time.
Yeah.
Where did your mind go with that? Were you thinking really, really big, or were you just thinking I could be a coffee roaster, period, and just, own my own business?
Yeah, I truly was thinking like this would be a great side gig, right? Like initially, I wasn't like, I can do this full time. I don't know that it would lead to that. I don't know that it could sustain that, right? Mm-hmm. But as it went on a little bit longer and a little bit longer, I was like, yeah, maybe I could just roast and could just sell to like local businesses and cafes or offices and things like that. And then it really started to make me think like, oh, I could truly not work in an office anymore. That's what I've always wanted. Like I went to school for entrepreneurial because I knew I wanted to work for myself. And so the thought of having just me and my coffee roaster and like my own contracts and fulfilling those on my own was really appealing, to not have to like work in an office and answer to somebody else. So
that's incredible. So you knew early on, you wanted to be an entrepreneur and work for yourself.
Yeah.
What was it like, when you get to a certain age, kind of like I was talking to you about beforehand, you get to a certain age and you're like, I just need a job and I just need to start, my life needs to get going. It's expensive when you're young and you don't fully understand like what it's going to take to move out and get your own place and all those things. What was the thought process and what kept you going and moving towards that when you kind of had to take a step back and say, okay, well, I just need a job just to sustain me for this time? Like what kept you pushing forward and still looking towards entrepreneurship?
I don't want to throw shade at my office job because I'm very appreciative of it. It was my first job out of college. They gave me a lot of grace. They were very supportive when I was like, I need Wednesday afternoon off to go work at a farmer's market. They were like, okay, no problem.
Right.
So they were very supportive in that sense, but working in a corporate environment, I think was very much a motivator to be like, I don't want to do this forever. I don't want to be here forever in this. And that was a big part of it, just like that feeling behind me of like, this isn't what I'm meant for. And like, this can't be it.
Right.
There's gotta be more.
It can definitely be stifling at times.
Yes.
And, so as you're going through that, you're selling at the farmers markets. About how long were you selling at farmers markets before you kind of decide to make the jump that like, maybe I should look to open my own spot?
It's like crazy to look back at that now and realize that it was like 4 years that I did. Like every weekend, every Saturday morning, I would get up, pack all the stuff in the car, tables, grinders, everything, pack everything up, and drive out almost an hour to Cazenovia on Saturday morning in my mid-20s and set up and sell bags of coffee for like 6-7 hours, pack it all up, bring it home, and then enjoy my time. It was like 4 years of that. And then we added in the regional market somewhere around like year 3, I think, and the manliest market at some point. But I was doing almost all of those. I had like one person who helped out occasionally and a couple family members who like took pity on me and would like work a booth, but it was a lot. And somewhere on the 4-year mark, I had become friends with Craig and Michelle out at Coffee Mania in Cortland.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing drive-thrus. And I knew from a long time ago, their drive-thrus were like super popular and very successful because my brother had lived out there and he was going and he was telling me about it. And he's like, this is a really cool thing. I'm going to take you. We're going to go experience this. I just like fell in love with that idea at that point.
That's really cool. And especially, it's funny because I remember when the first hut opened here in Auburn in 2016.
Yeah.
I was 18 at the time. I was just out of high school. So it's like,
I'm so old.
Well, I knew nothing about anything at that point.
Sure.
But especially at the time, coffee shops, coffee cafes were kind of at another peak. They've had a lot of peaks throughout history, but that was certainly a peak for cafes and shops. So I remember when the hut opened and I was thinking, man, like, isn't this so limiting? Like, why would you only want to open a hut? Like, why wouldn't you open a cafe space? Of course, knowing absolutely nothing about cost and business and all these things.
Yeah.
So looking back on the hut, you had the inspiration from someone else doing it. What was it like opening the hut at that time when cafes and coffee shops were more popular? And did you what was that? Did you have people questioning that decision? And how confident were you in the huts? And what were the benefits to the huts at that time?
I don't know what to attribute it to other than just being naive, but I was very confident. I was like 100% sure that this was going to work, we joke about my general manager and I, Jess, who's been with me since like day one. We joke about like when we first opened, we were like, we just got to clear $100. If we can make $100 today, everybody gets paid and like we're profitable, and like looking back on that, it's like totally crazy to think that number was ever going to work. Right. Like you can't sustain a business on that. But it just, I don't know. It felt like it was going to be no problem. It was going to be okay. People did not understand it. Right. Like we put this building, it was already existing in the parking lot, but we kind of reskinned it, relaunched it as like just a coffee drive-through. And we got a lot of people who came through and they were still looking for ice cream and hot dogs, and they didn't understand that it was like independent windows on each side of the building. They wanted to like order at one and try to like loop around the end of the building, even though that's like impossible.
Yeah.
And our favorite story from the first year of business is a woman coming through and asking us if we sold pot roast, because she saw the name of the business and thought that that's just what it was.
Just roasting.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
It is funny looking back now, because there are a lot of these,
Right.
huts now. Like 7 Brew's got tons of locations all over the place, and that's kind of the craze right now. But I loved the story about $100 a day. I did one of these interviews recently, and someone was talking about just having a goal, even if it's not the right one, can be super important to. Even if it's silly, just to say like, this is something I can achieve, and this is something I can strive for. I think is super important, especially at that time.
100%.
So obviously looking back now, it's a smart business play to do the huts at that. But when you were being questioned about it at that time, you said you were, super confident, super sure of it. What was the initial run of that first hut? Like, what did you learn in the first year that became, I'm sure, invaluable to the business going forward?
Yeah, so much. Like, so much about myself, and so much about like how to do business, and so much about coffee, right? Like, I pretty quickly found that like one of the most important things to me while running the business was that I wanted to treat my employees how I always wanted to be treated at work, and like give them a certain level of autonomy and like respect and like trust, like just inherently trust them to do a good job. And that's really stuck with me since the beginning. Jess has been a big push on that too. Like, we both have had some pretty rotten jobs over time. So we learned a lot through that. We learned so much about coffee. We're still learning about coffee all the time. And customer service. Like, that was the big one. Just really, yes, it's a drive-through. Yes, we're supposed to be going fast and like getting customers in and out, and like they're interested in that. But also they're very interested in being treated really great at the window and having a little bit of like one-on-one time and like building a rapport with their barista, even though it's not like a traditional cafe setting there. We know your order. We know your dog's name. We can tell when you're having a bad day, and we'll give you a free coffee, like all of these things. And like, people love that. And so we've really fixated on that as like one of the driving forces for the business. Like, yeah, we want to be fast. And we hear all the time, the lines are too long. It's too slow. It takes forever to get through. But from those same people, when they get up to the window, they want their 3 minutes. They want to talk to their favorite barista and see what's going on and make conversation, So we try to give everybody that individual time. And I think those are like the big things that we learned in the first year that we have tried to stick with as much as possible.
Right. So. Yeah. And you definitely mentioned it there. Like, you're still learning about coffee. It's like I feel like I'm a pretty simple, I love coffee, but I'm a pretty simple coffee drinker. I feel like I've scratched the surface of what is out there for coffee. And it's probably just a never ending hole that I'm sure you guys will be always, in the hunt for the next thing. What is it about the coffee culture? I think it gets maybe not as much now as it used to, but I feel like at a time it definitely got a bad rep for being kind of this, uppity thing at certain places where if you don't know what you're doing, you'll be looked at a certain way, or, I don't know what a brevet is. And so now I'm nervous to go into this place. Right. What about the huts and the business you were building at that time? How were you trying to kind of combat that and cater to people, both the people that are incredibly versed in coffee as well as the people who are more ignorant to the entire world?
Yeah. Yeah, you hit right on it. So like, that's like the whole origin of the business name, right? Is people are intimidated by coffee, and the people who are like, they call themselves coffee aficionados, right? Like, it's connoisseurs. Like, sure, there's lots of terminology. There's lots of things you can get into about it, but you can also just enjoy a cup of coffee without really knowing anything about it. Like, when we're cupping for coffees and we're picking out beans and origins and stuff, we tell people like, you don't need to know all the descriptive words and whatever. Like, when you're trying it, you need to be able to say, yes, I like it. No, I don't like it. Right. And if you can go a little bit further than that, great. If you can't, that's okay. So when we first opened, one of the biggest things was like, we want to be super approachable. We know that this is a weird thing. Like, the building itself is a weird thing for Auburn. An espresso bar is weird. Like, when we opened, there wasn't a Starbucks here yet. There wasn't a 7 Brew. That we were maybe the only place in town that had an actual espresso machine and was like focusing on this specifically. So we knew that there was some education that had to be done. And so when customers came through, we just went out of our way to make them feel confident, or like that we were happy to explain whatever they wanted. right? So if they didn't know what a latte was, we would take a couple minutes to explain to them like what it is, how it's different from coffee, what it's going to taste like. And if they came back the next day and that wasn't the drink for them, we'd help them like navigate to a different drink that we thought they might like more based on their feedback. And so we just try to educate, right? Like, yeah, it's weird and it's scary and it has this whole culture around it. But if we can like make everybody feel comfortable with it, they're going to like it. Like we're going to find something that they like. And then hopefully they come back all the time, you know?
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, definitely looking back at the time. I mean, even now, I guess now there is, some of the larger nationwide brands, the Starbucks, the Seven Brews have come into town, but especially at the time I remember it opening, and you guys really were the local option in the area. And there is such a large difference to any local coffee shop versus these massive chains, in my opinion, of taste and flavor, and especially with you guys. So I don't think I realized how good I had it when you guys, popped up. So you're navigating all these things, being a first time business owner in this area.
Yeah.
Now you're also having to navigate, kind of explaining the product to some degree to some of the customer base. Mm-hmm. What about opening in Auburn piqued your interest? Was it just something that was available and seemed like a good choice at the time? Or were you looking for, a smaller market to compete in versus, Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo? And what benefits and also cons do you see in operating in a market of this size?
It's a mixture of things. It did fall into my lap. Like we got very lucky. Like we made that relationship with our friends at Coffee Mania. The original Grant Ave drive-thru was run by a woman, I think it was called Nana's Cafe. They, at Coffee Mania, they were selling her coffee for her cafe out of it, but she was doing like a mixture of like a lot of different foods. She wanted to be done with the building. She reached out to them to try and sell it to them. And they were like, we don't want to spread ourselves outside of Cortland, but we made this friend at the farmers markets. He's very interested in what we do. We'll let him know. Right. And so they called me almost 10 years ago today. And we're like, hey, we found this building. We think it's probably a good location. You should go look at it. She wants a very reasonable amount of money to basically buy the building and take over the lease. And I was like, okay. So I went out on like a Friday, checked it out. On Monday, I called her and was like, I'm going to buy the building. And on Tuesday, I put in my notice for work and was like, I'm just going to go in on this, As far as like how we ended up in Auburn, that's how we got here. But then, looking at it and making that decision was very much like, I've been roasting in Syracuse. I'm in the shadow of these other like huge companies that are already established out here, like Cafe Coupal and Recess Coffee at the time, Freedom of Espresso. And so how do I get into a market where they aren't already the giants? That building being available in Auburn, and I couldn't find anybody else who out here was doing it. So it just seemed like a great opportunity. And it's been amazing. Like Auburn has been the most supportive and like loyal customer base. It's crazy. It sort of feels like there's this pressure to only be an Auburn company.
Right.
Like I'm going to betray them if I do anything else.
Start expanding outwards. Yeah. It definitely shows, anytime, most times a day, there's people in lines at the huts, which by the way, if there's a line at the hut, you better wait. I'm telling you right now, I wait every time. Anytime I come around, I'm certainly, there.
Thank you.
And my personal opinion, it is my favorite coffee. So I'm glad that you set up and you've done it all. Now we won't quite get to this cafe yet, but you've expanded quite a bit over the years.
Yeah.
As you said, it's been almost a decade now that you've been open, which congratulations about that as well.
Yeah.
It's a huge accomplishment. Going forward, are there, I guess let's even back it up a step further than that. You only have one hut. How long was it before you opened the second hut on the west side of town? And how did that situation come to play to have almost an identical hut just on the opposite side of town?
Yeah, that's definitely the craziest move I ever made. It was like 2 years. Like it was so fast. And looking back on it and looking at the numbers and all the sales data, I truly don't know what I was thinking. Being like, yeah, we can do another one of these 3 miles away in the same town and on like a no budget, self-funded. Like we didn't get money from a bank. We just bought a shed.
Wow.
That was like sort of the same spec as the one that we currently had and outfitted it with equipment that we kind of patched together, like a lot of it used. Just reached out to a landlord and was like, hey, you have an empty parking lot. Are you interested in me renting part of it? And they were like, for what? Like,
didn't fully get it.
Yeah. Like, what do you want to do? But at the end of the day, they were like, sure, we're not using that parking lot for anything. So, okay. And it just took off. Like, we were really worried about it, like cannibalizing our own business at the East Hut. But for some reason, opening the second one like gave us more credibility or something. And that one took off immediately and got busy. And it also made the original one busier.
Wow. Yeah.
Which it was crazy. It was almost 2 years to the day that we got it open and running. And in the midst of that, my wife was pregnant and we had our twins like 3 months before that location opened.
Oh man.
So I had 2 newborns at home. And we were getting this location open, staffing it up, running it, and opening it. It's like, it was just such a crazy time in my life.
Yeah, that's wild. And it's funny because I'm sure, like you said, looking back on paper,
Yeah,
I'm sure if you would talk to, a financial, business accountant or whatever, they might have told you this is a bad idea. But you think about the geographic, the situation going on in Auburn, it makes a ton of sense.
Right.
And these two separate sides of town. I don't want to drive 20 minutes or 15 minutes to the other side of town to get my coffee if I don't have to. So super glad that worked out. But you mentioned, you're married and having kids at this time as well. What was it like, not only then, but now as well, having young children, having a wife at home, all these things, being a business owner, I always like to, and doing anything extraordinary takes a lot of time, a lot of effort that people don't see behind the scenes. They see the successful business. They see you opening up new huts. They see, what's posted on social media, but they don't see all the long hours behind the scenes.
Yeah.
What is it like managing those things, and wanting to pursue the business and grow it and be honest and give it your best effort while also managing the family and the kids at home?
Yeah, it's really hard. It very often feels like doing many things not quite as good as you want to do all of them, right? You find yourself feeling at the end of the day like, I wish I wasn't so stressed from work, so I'd be in a better mood to hang out with my kids. Like they didn't do anything, like I'm just stressed and like it's a tough day. Or like my kids were up a lot last night. I'm so tired at work today. I just like can't get it together. It's like going back and forth and like balancing these things is really difficult. I think I've gotten a lot better at it over time. The kids have gotten older, so it's a little bit easier.
Right.
They're a little more self-sufficient, but I have an amazing, amazing support structure. Like my mom is a rock star. She's like with my kids all the time, affords me the ability to be at school. My wife is fantastic. She's like super cheerleader, like just so supportive, and it like doesn't question me, like does in a way that's constructive, but has so much confidence in me to the point where I'm like, I guess I'm great at this.
Yeah,
like she definitely thinks
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, she definitely thinks I'm really good at this. So that feels great. It's tough. I mean, it's for sure the hardest part of this, like balancing and being aware of the fact that you need to balance it and making the adjustment and like stepping yourself outside of it, because even setting up for this, right? Like my phone rang like 3 times and you're just putting out like small fires and like answering questions. But having that separation at home and being like, I'm not going to answer my phone, or I'm going to put it down and this can wait until tomorrow, is just like something you have to learn over time, because otherwise you just go crazy. Like,
right.
It's too much.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can imagine. It's I don't have kids yet, but I'm in a serious relationship and definitely want to head in that direction. So I'm always interested to hear how people manage that, and thank you also for shouting out the people around you for the work that they do, because that's another thing is I feel like a lot of people don't understand that in order to chase something like this, there's a support system's crucial. Like you really can't do it alone, even if it's as simple as calling a friend at the end of the day to kind of air your grievances and whatnot.
Right.
Like there's always people behind the scenes that are helping make this happen. How was it with, even before the kids, with your wife and I guess now with the kids as well? I'm sure there's a lot of growing pains, a lot of, kind of bumping your head here and there with things as you're, navigating how to manage and juggle all these things.
Right.
Do you have any advice for people that, want to do something, want to pursue something, but feel like, life's already crazy enough. Life's already crazy enough. It's already hectic enough. I already have all these responsibilities. How can they do better in, managing their time, or at least attempting to? Because I'm sure it's a losing game overall. Like there's always going to be something that you're kind of picking up the pieces to.
Right.
But how do you feel about making those two things work at the same time?
Yeah, I think what I've really learned over time is that you have to give yourself some grace, right? You can't be so hard on yourself all the time. Like you're never going to get it perfect. You're not going to get it right all of the time, right? Like you have to give yourself a little bit of room to breathe, and like, sure, you're going to have bad days. You're going to screw up a sale. Piece of equipment was a waste of money. Whatever it is, you just have to give yourself a little bit of room and like be okay with that and not let it drag you down and stop you and prevent you from moving forward and trying again, you know? Um, the balance is tough. I don't know that there's like a definitive answer for that.
Right.
Other than just trying to be aware of it and hold yourself accountable, right? Like keeping track of it, paying attention and just sticking with it. Yeah.
Right. No, that's great. That's great. I really appreciate you, being open with that and sharing that. So, we'll take it back to the coffee. So now we're at this point. You have 2 huts open. Yeah. What is the upstate coffee community like? We kind of mentioned how, especially for a time, there was this connotation about, coffee enthusiasts and aficionados. Mm-hmm. What has it been like? There's coffee shops all over the place. It's a very popular business. So is there, a backdoor community of coffee in upstate New York? Yes. And what is it like, talking with all those other people?
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is like, yes, like we all pretty much know each other. Or I feel like I know all of them to some degree, like we're either friends or we're associates in some sense. We know the guys at Recess. We're very close with the people at Coffee Mania. They're like mentors to us. They're family, friends. Like I love them. Salt City Coffee, Aaron was coming up like the same time I was. We knew each other. We were working together. We've shared equipment over time, become friends just kind of through working through that, at the same time. Yeah. I mean, we all get along. If someone's roaster goes down, we know that there's at least one other person we can call and be like, hey, my machine's not working right now. Can we, send someone over to roast on your machine just to keep production up? Or can you help us? Can we send you coffee and you'll help? Like that kind of stuff. It's sort of incredible. Like we're all in this community, some of us by accident, some of us on purpose, and just working through it, but like going through a lot of the same struggles. Like corporations coming in and like trying to stay the independent place. And what does that look like in pricing and staffing, all of that stuff. So yeah, it's cool. And, every once in a while there's like events that go on around like Rochester specifically. We just had our head roaster go out there and like kind of network with other coffee roasters in the area just to get together and talk about business trends and new things coming up and all that stuff. So
yeah, that's great. And as a large fan of local coffee of any kind, I'm glad that you guys are banding together as opposed to firing shots back and forth it's you guys against the corporations if there's an against but it's like a collaborative environment is really great. And I think people lose how important it is to have a community of like-minded people around you, and especially in the social media age, especially post-pandemic, there's a lot of people aren't getting out and meeting people and having meaningful conversations. So it's really great to hear that you guys are all doing that.
I mean, I wouldn't say that we are talking every day by any means, but like, it's always there in the background. Like we got each other's backs, we'll work together. Certainly no one is going out hunting down each other's customers. Like that's not the environment that we're in.
Right.
So, and everybody likes coffee. There's enough customers out there.
So. Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So you have these 2 huts open and you're stuck with the hut for the second location. Was there any thought in your mind at any point that you would take the jump from a hut to a cafe before opening that hut? And what were the pros and cons to that at the time?
No. And I pretty notoriously was on record for saying that I never wanted a sit-down cafe because I knew that they're just an overhead monster, right? Like they take more staff, they take more seating, there's more wear on equipment, there's all of these things that go into it. And I swore up and down that I was never going to have a sit-down cafe. But I absolutely love my general manager, Jess, and she always wanted a sit-down cafe for the business. She believes strongly in like community and like giving people a place, like a third place to go and hang out and like, some of the comforts that we can offer at the drive-thru. This is a more expanded version of that. We can kind of welcome you in and make an environment that we're proud of and that we wanted people to be in. And so I knew that she wanted that. I fought it for a very long time, but I love her very much. And it was a good idea. And this location happened to, again, just sort of fall to us. I don't want to say it was like just dumb luck, but like through networking and making relationships, this building became available. And it was just too good of an opportunity and too good of a location to pass up.
Right.
But the way that my brain works is that we looked at it and we're like, well, it's a cafe in the morning, but there's really not that much business in the afternoon. Even through the drive-thrus, we know from like 2 to 6 o'clock is pretty quiet. It's like the afternoon shift. People aren't out as much. So how do we make use of the space to make it make sense for the rental cost. So we just picked up the idea to do the cocktail bar in the evening. Thursday, Friday to Saturday, we're open 5 to 11, drinks, cocktail bar, kind of like if I was going to do a second business, that's what I would do. So it was also a way for me to like stretch my legs and see if I could do it, right? Like test myself and get that open too. It turns out it was very difficult.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm glad that it's open now, but I have no aspirations of opening another sit-down cafe.
Yeah, so. You almost got to stretch your legs a little bit of the brewery. If you brewing beer early on, it's almost like it came. It's like
come back around.
Cocktail bar. It came back around full circle with that.
Yep.
So when you have these two huts, and eventually you get to this space here, which is beautiful, by the way. You guys did an incredible job with it. Where do you stand on the idea of convenience versus experience? Now, especially, I think you have a great, you would have a great viewpoint on that, being that you have both ends of the spectrum with the sit-down cafe and the huts. Do you think that these two things can be, mutually exclusive and live synchronously together? And how has your mindset shifted on that, being that you started with the huts and now you've also opened the cafe?
Yeah, I think that it's possible to achieve both. Right? Like certainly in the cafe, it's warm, it's inviting. We want people to come in and feel comfortable, but we also try to be fast, right? And conversely at the huts, people expect us to be fast, but we still try to be like warm and inviting and give them a little bit of time. I think that also though, those two locations or these two different types of businesses also are coming from two different expectations from the customer, if that makes sense. Like if they come down here, generally they're expecting to sit for a minute, see some people, talk to the baristas, maybe run into a friend down here. They have that expectation built into their day when they go out, versus the huts, people very much have the expectation that I want my coffee and I want to go to work. Right. So if they get a little bit of conversation at the window, that's great, but that's not ultimately like what they're looking for when they go there. So it's balance, like we can lean into it a little bit here at the drive-thrus. They might be happy to see you, but ultimately they want to go.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you guys are certainly a strong presence in the area and a well-respected business locally. Do you see a lot of crossover of clientele from the huts to the cafe? And did that shock you, not shock you when you opened the cafe to see that the expanded customer base, but also some old regulars coming in?
Yeah. I mean, it is definitely amazing, right? Like we have a couple very specific regulars I can think of that, I saw them at the drive-thru for years, and then I got to see them at the cafe, and we got to have more than a 30-second conversation without people buzzing around us trying to cash you out and everything else. And we make the joke all the time, like, oh, this is what the rest of you looks like, because we only ever see you in your car. So, I mean, it was a little bit surprising, but it was also like what we built the space for, right? Like to also have more time with the customers that we really like and wanting to talk to them more. So I think that, most of us here are very social. And so the job kind of lends itself to that desire, right? Like getting to connect with people and be in the community. So.
Absolutely. And it's a great thing that I think people aren't getting enough of. I was actually reading something. I think I referenced this on another episode as well. Just keep recycling all this. There was like a study done about how, Gen Z isn't drinking as much anymore, which is, pretty well known. And that's fine, but the big part that really interests me was people were saying how they're not replacing it with, going out to bars and socializing. They're not replacing with anything else. Right. So there's this big disconnect of, going out and meeting people in person and having these genuine connections. So it's awesome that you guys have the ability to do that, and it's in a small way at the huts, and then bring it and kind of open it up here a lot more.
And that's something that we talk about quite a bit, like that whole idea of like a third place, right? Like somewhere people can go to just engage in community and like be in groups. And even though we're doing the bar Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and that's, traditionally when people are going out to be together, right? We're trying to focus on some events like doing mocktail specific nights. We do like a reading night once a month where you can just kind of come in and you don't have to read with anybody, but you can just quietly read, and we turn the music down, and it's just a place to be among others. And like, there's no requirement to drink or anything. You just come in and sit down. Right. And, we do that stuff because we feel strongly about that and like having a place for those things.
Right. So that's great. And I think that's really important in being inclusive, because there are a lot of people that feel like, oh, I can't go to a bar, I'm not going to drink, or I'm not going with a friend, or so having those spaces, I think, super important. So it's awesome that you guys are doing that.
Yeah. Thanks.
But bringing it back to, the come up and now to where you are at this
Mm-hmm.
point. I'm sure, as anyone knows, when you're trying to start up a business or do something, it's all you. You are from the top rung to the bottom is all you. You're doing all the work.
Yeah.
How did that transition over time? How did you start to let go of some of the work and start to divvy it out to other people? And where do you, how do you decide to step away from brewing coffee versus roasting versus the business side of things? And how do you handle all those?
Yeah. Generally speaking, anytime I get to one of those crossroads, I am not aware that I have arrived at it. My wife or my general manager, Jess, will tell me very nicely that I've reached a crossroads and that I need to, hand something off and I can't do it anymore. Right. So I started out roasting coffee. Like I didn't have any aspirations to like manage people or even sell by the cup. I just was roasting coffee. I wanted to sell bags of beans. I don't even roast the coffee anymore. Like I've had that taken away from me now. Our roaster, Ben, is amazing. And he's taken that over and he's doing a far better job than I ever did, to be totally honest with you. It's tough. It's really hard to give those things up. I went from doing all the roasting, all the equipment purchasing, or supply ordering, picking up those supplies, stocking them, putting them away, all of that stuff, to having to kind of give those things out and trust other people with them. But that's also a big thing that I believe in. Like, I can't be good at all the things all the time, and I have to trust some other people to do them. And I think that my trust in other people has been rewarded like tenfold. Like, it just proves me right over and over again that like if I trust them, they can do it. And if I let them go, they're going to rise to the occasion and I don't have to worry about that thing,
Right. Yeah. That's great. I'm sure you started the business because you loved roasting coffee and you had a great time doing it. Are there some of those things from the early days that you really miss doing? And how do you get that feeling back that you had from doing those things that you don't get to do anymore?
Yeah, man. When my first roastery, like my first like true roastery was in like Manlius. It was like a one bay of a garage. It's just me and the coffee roaster and a TV and a recliner. All right.
I love it. Yeah.
So I would roast coffee, these like 12 to 15 minutes on a batch of coffee. So I'd drop the first one in, let it go, watch a TV show while I'm in there, relax. Takes like half an hour, 45 minutes for it to cool off. And you can't do anything in that time period. So I just sit in the chair and relax. And that was great. That was great. But that doesn't happen anymore, So, it's tougher to find that kind of stuff. Ironically, I've ended up in an office, which I tried to get out of, but now it's on my own terms, right? And like working on things that I like and interacting with staff that I love and like, meeting people. So I think the difference is that while I don't get to do one specific job that I like love and was like super relaxing, I get to do many different jobs all day, every day. And it looks different all the time. And actually for my brain, that's great. I'm a creature of habit. So if I fall into routine, it's very easy for me to never look up and just kind of do the same thing every day.
Right.
Versus like this keeps me on my feet and I have to be diverse in what I'm doing and tackle different problems all the time. And I love it. Like I thrive in that environment. I like to solve problems. So yeah, it's like good and bad for me.
Right. Kind of just figuring it out as we go. What about in your personal time? Are there like certain things, hobbies that you make sure to carve out time for? I'm sure it's, aside from the family, I'm sure that's, very time consuming and a great thing to reset and recharge with. And do you think it's important for people that are, putting so much work into something to have kind of an external thing that's completely separate?
Yeah, you gotta, right? I mean, like any job, right? It's so important to have like a social structure and like things that you look forward to doing that aren't work related. And that was tough for a while, but I play Pathfinder, which is basically Dungeons and Dragons with my friends. And that's been going on for like 5-6 years. Like every other week we get together for a few hours and play. Sometimes there's nights where like we barely even play. It's really just about like getting together and like talking and hanging out. And we try to socialize as much as possible and stay involved, even if it's not in person, just staying involved with friends online and like having conversations every day and keeping in touch and talking about things that are specifically not work related,
right?
To keep my brain happy.
Busy. Yeah.
Yep.
That's great. I'm assuming. So, well, you said that the opening the second hut was kind of the craziest time of this whole experience. You opened this, the cafe space here that we're sitting in post-COVID.
Yeah.
Time. What was, so you said that, through a relationship, you got the building and all these things and your general manager was in your ear kind of for years about, possibly doing this.
Yeah.
At what point did you take it as, kind of a serious offer, something that you seriously wanted to do?
Yeah.
And how did you kind of flip your brain to stop thinking about the huts and the convenience and start thinking about a cafe space?
Yeah. I think once we had the conversation about like the location, and, Jess had been pretty adamant about it for years. We got the location. We got an amazing deal on like the lease for the space. It got harder to ignore.
Yeah.
Right. And like it did again, it felt like a test for myself. Like, can I do this? Can I outfit this place? Can I put together a food menu? Can we make it popular? And like, anyone on my management team will tell you that like after I finish a project, you got about a year maybe before I get itchy and I start wanting to do something else because I get bored. Mm-hmm. And then I start working on something. And so it just kind of hit right at the right time where, we were sort of stagnant. We weren't growing. Building was in like a great location. It was a super good lease. There was ambition from the management team. They really wanted to do it. And it just was the right time.
Right.
Yeah, it just worked out.
It seems like it's worked out great.
It's been fantastic.
Yeah. So how many years have you been in the space now? And looking at it, from where we're at now, did you ever think that in the first, handful of years that you guys were in business here, is this where you wanted to be? And could you have seen the growth play out like it did?
Yeah, I think we're doing great here. I don't think it will ever be as much sales wise as the drive-thrus. But that's just because they're like monsters. They can just get through so many people per day. They're just not capable of that here, right? And like, people have to get out of their car and come in, right?
Different goals.
Right? But that being said, I mean, it's fantastic. It's profitable. It's, every time I walk in here, it feels so good to see like all these people in here having individual conversations and enjoying the space that like we spent a lot of time curating and decorating and putting all this stuff together. I mean, my wife will tell you I spent so many hours on the couch just looking at furniture.
Yeah.
Going through like what we wanted and debating what would fit where.
Yeah.
It feels great to have it come to life. Yeah.
Yeah. So. That's great. So you guys have done incredibly well in the first, decade or so in business, which I don't think people realize also like in today's social media age, you see like the 20-year-old that made $1 million last month, and that's become like normalized.
Right.
But obviously that is not the case for 99.99% of the population. That's just not how business works. It's not how life works for the majority of people. If you can do it, awesome.
Yeah.
But I think the majority of people need to understand that it is a grind. It's a long grind, but it's a very rewarding thing if you're doing something you love and pursuing something that you have. If you have a lofty goal, a lofty expectation, it's always worth putting in the work.
Yeah.
Looking back, were there times, either before the huts, during the huts, even to where we are now, that you ever thought about, I don't want to say quitting, but thought about maybe this isn't for me?
Yeah.
And how did you power through that situation? And how did that, if you did have those situations come up, how did that change how you thought about things, and how does it keep you going now?
Yeah. I mean, there's hard days, right? Like there's definitely things like COVID was like super tough. We closed it's tough for everybody, right?
Yeah.
But looking at it from the business side of things, we closed for like 6 weeks just because we didn't know if it was safe to even have our baristas in the huts and taking money and exchanging things by hand at that point, right? Like nobody really knew anything. And so we had to decide like, is this right? Is it wrong? Like what's safest for our staff? So like we closed for 6 weeks and we tried to pay everybody as much as we could and keep things going. Like, yeah, that was awful, right? Like that was not fun. But even then, I don't remember ever thinking like, well, this is it. I'm going to sell the business and be done with it. It just was like, this is a problem. How do we solve it? How do we move forward? I may joke every once in a while, we have a frustrating day. Like I'm just going to sell it all off. Yeah. And I'm going to go, answer questions at Home Depot or something. Right. Like that's sort of the dream. Right.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I could never, right? Like I'm too invested in this place. I love it here. I love my staff. I also don't know that I could not do it and not get stir crazy.
Right.
I'm just a busybody. I wouldn't be able to give it up. So,
right. Yeah, I agree with you there. And, I do something I love for a living as well. And I've always had that thought of like, I don't know if I'll ever truly retire. Like I'll take steps back. I'll only take things that, align with what I want to do and my goals. But like, I don't know if I'll ever really just hang it up and not work. It sounds like you're kind of in that same ballpark.
Yep.
And so when you do think about the future of the business of your life, where do you want to take the business? I know you said earlier, kind of like a little wary about expanding outside of Auburn. At least, I'm sure some people have some thoughts about that.
Yeah.
Have you thought about expanding, and what kind of problems does that bring? What kind of greatness does that bring? And what are your opinions on both of those things?
So we actually are expanding outside of Auburn. We're going to be opening another drive-thru location. We're kind of like in the midst of all of the lease negotiations and build out for that. And that's why I say it's like sort of scary because I'm not sure. I think Auburnians will be okay. I think they'll be supportive.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, you guys have built like a super strong presence in a really respected business. So I think everyone will be just fine. As long as the huts are still here.
Oh yeah. It's like, no, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Assuming the huts are still here, I don't think anyone will have a problem at all.
No, they're not going anywhere. Yeah. It's still scary. It's like it's the next scary step, right? I don't know exactly what the future for the business looks like. And it may very well be just this. And I think that I've also come to terms with or come to peace with, I should say, that's okay, right? Like, I think to go back to what you said earlier, like you see like the 20-year-old who made $1 million, right? And like, you see like big companies open up and they spread like wildfire and they have like 500 locations and like, that's great. I just don't know that life's for me. Like when I started out with this, or even back in college, I went for entrepreneurial, and I would tell my friends back then, like, I just want to have a job I like a business that I like, have a wife, a couple kids, and a house, and like have sort of a simple life and do my own thing. And I think that I've achieved that. And like, you get caught in like this cycle of like wanting to do more. But also it's nice to sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labor. Right. And like take a minute to be like, it's okay. Like we made it. We got a steady income. This is going really well. I don't have to want more. Right. Like I can if I want to, but I can be happy with what I got.
Yeah.
That's all right.
That's great. I really appreciate that as well. Cause I think everyone, myself included, falls into that category of sometimes just, you always feel behind. And that's another thing with social media is it always can make you feel like, everyone else is out there doing something, but I'm not. And it's really, it's just exactly what the platforms and the algorithms want you to think.
Right.
I think a lot of people struggle with that idea of like, I can just be happy. And I think more people need to at times look inside and look at what's around them and be thankful and be grateful for that and just be more honest about, really think about what's important to you.
Right.
And you don't have to be a billionaire. You do not have to have 500 huts. Like if what you want to do is just work for yourself and be secure and have a great family, then that's an incredible, incredible life to live.
Yeah. And I feel like, man, I feel so fortunate to have it. And like, there are some days where it's like, you think about all the stresses you have and like all the things that you're doing and like what your schedule is. And like, it's easy to complain about it. But when I really step back and look at it, I'm like, I am so lucky. Like I'm so incredibly fortunate that anybody in Auburn cared at all to stop at this tiny building in a parking lot and be like, sure, I'll buy a cup of coffee, and then to continue to come back and tell other friends about it. And like, yeah, we're just incredibly fortunate.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you put it that way, it's actually hysterical. But it's great. I mean, you guys have always, like I said, always been a pillar here in the area. So it's great to have you. And, thank you so much for sitting down and doing all this. I just got a couple more things for you. One, we talk about the future of the business, and you've already, kind of mentioned that you have these goals for yourself. You feel like you've achieved a lot of them. Mm-hmm. What does fulfillment look like for you going forward in life? I'm sure having kids changes that, having a wife and a family changes that. What does fulfillment look like to you, and how do you plan on reaching that or sustaining that if that's where you are?
That's a tricky question. And to be honest with you, it's like something I've been spending a lot of time thinking about. And I don't know necessarily what the answer is, which is a little bit scary on its own, right? To sort of feel like you've had these goals and these ambitions and like a very clear path of what you wanted to do. And then to sort of achieve that and look around and be like, okay, what next? Right? Like, what do I do from here? And so I'm at another crossroads where I'm like, I have to decide, what do I want to do? Do I want to be happy with what I have and what's going on? Do I want to expand? What does that expansion look like? How much more do I do? Do we bring in some outside force to like invest more heavily? I don't know. I don't truly know.
Right. And that's
But,
okay too.
yeah.
You know, that's another thing is you don't have to have it all figured out. You know, sometimes just keeping going, keeping on
right.
is a great thing as well.
And that's sort of where we're at. You know, I mean, you know, we always try to get better, like more efficient, new equipment. You know, how can we make the line faster? That all stuff, like the day to day that we're trying to make better all the time. I don't mean to make it sound like I'm sitting around just like we did
pondering.
it. And I'm not doing, you know. But you know, I don't know. I think just like expanding one more and seeing how that goes. I think that's also going to indicate quite a bit about what that's going to look like in the future, and we'll know more after that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it's great. It's super exciting stuff, and I'm really excited for you guys to do that and undertake that. So it's really exciting to hear that they're going to be doing this. Last thing for you, the show is called Someday Soon. Mm-hmm. So for you, what falls into that category of someday soon? Like, what is either it could be personally, it could be in the business, it could be both. And how do you feel like you want to go about achieving or sustaining? Like we kind of had already talked about, and what falls into that category of someday soon for you right now?
Wow, that's tough.
Yeah.
You know, someday soon, I'm gonna have it all figured out on how to be just like the best dad, right? Like I'm just gonna be super great at it, and I'm gonna get all of that and like figure it all out. And you know, in the immediate future, someday soon, we'll have our new drive-thru open and be working on that and working on expansion plans from there. I think for right now, it's just like one step at a time. It's tough to say. Like I said, I'm kind of at that crossroads where I'm like, I don't really know what the future looks like or what I'm driving towards currently.
Right.
So
that's great. And I mean, a decade into the business to still be doing that and undertaking these new things, not fully knowing, you know, where you're headed, I think is incredible and admirable to not just, you know, you could just sit back and just, you know, completely, you know, step away and kind of just and collect and live your life. But I think it's great that you still have that drive to keep going and keep pushing forward.
Couldn't do that. It's not me.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So, and actually one last thing, the brand is great on social media.
Thanks.
I think, and do you guys use, I know you post reels and all these things.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on social media in the business world right now for growing small businesses? I'm sure there's a lot of pros. You can be seen by the world.
Right.
And I'm sure there's plenty of cons with it as well. How do you guys think about it? Do you put restrictions on it? Is that one of the things you divvy out? Like, kind of how does that work for you guys?
Yeah, truly my management team, like they're 100% responsible for that. They are fantastic. They're so funny and creative. And like, I have basically given them creative freedoms to do whatever they want. And they're really great at it. I think that they enjoy doing it. I think it's like job enrichment for them. Like they have taken it on and like, I don't have to do it. I'm really bad at it. Nobody's interested in the content that I would create probably. And I don't even know that I could come up with the stuff that they do. Yeah, I don't regulate it other than they know like it needs to be like somewhat family friendly, right? Because like, you know, there's younger kids on social media and whatever else. We don't want to be like seen like that. But social media for business is like so important. Like we never paid anybody for like advertising when we opened. We just did social media. And so I got to give props to that. Like it's probably a huge reason that anybody found out about us. Just like posting and like getting traction that way and word of mouth on social media. I still don't know that social media is a net positive for society.
Right. I can agree. Yes. Yeah.
But it's part of doing business now, you know, especially in 2026, it's like you have to be in on the trends and like all the silly things that come up and like part of it. And that gets traction, it gets views, it gets people ordering, you know, the unseen part of it is like if we get traction on social media and it spreads outside of this immediate area, it ends up driving more online sales for bagged coffee that we ship out all over the country. It's not a huge business, but we can see, you know, when we have a really popular video that hits like 1 million views or something, we get more online orders from customers not immediately in this area. So
just great. So it's like you said, it's a great thing to expand outward and see, but I'm sure it's very difficult. It is my least favorite part of the job that I do. Like I'm always one of those people that says if I wasn't doing, video work and whatnot, like I just would not be a part of it. It's just not my thing. Yeah. It's great to hear that even, especially you guys coming up in 2016, like social media was relevant and around, but it wasn't really seen as a tool at the time to build business the way it is now. Like now it's step one is like make an Instagram page is like the first thing you do. Yeah. Were you at the forefront of that, or was that also management team at the time? And like, how did it come about to, it kind of just naturally?
We were on it immediately. I mean, as soon as we opened, we set up a Facebook page right away and started posting all of our specials and pictures and just like it really just truly was like, we don't have a budget for advertising, but we can advertise for free on Facebook. Right. We can just put everything up on there, and then, you add an Instagram eventually, and then, short video form kind of took over. And so my staff are traditionally younger, and they're always in on it. Right. Like they like to do it. So
that's great.
Yeah, no, I think like right away in 2016, we had a Facebook page set up. So
that's great. Well, I'm super thankful you took the time today to sit down and do all
this. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's been great talking to you. I'm super happy the business is thriving. Listen, I live out in Syracuse now. If you want to open a hut out there, I'm just saying, we would love you to do that. I will be the biggest supporter of the Simple Roast Syracuse location. I miss stopping it all the time. So speaking of social media, let everyone know really quick, one, where they could find you, what they should be looking for, and what's next. You kind of mentioned it a little bit. I don't know if we're ready to say what's next fully, but let them know where they can see the announcements as they come in.
Yeah, so you can find us on Facebook and Instagram, Simple Roast Coffee. We also have this location, Roast and Toast Cafe and Cocktail Bar, on Instagram. We're on there all the time, every day, posting specials, things going on, events, stuff like that. And yes, we are going to be expanding to the Syracuse area.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You just made my day, sir.
Yeah. Happy to do so. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Matt, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
If you're in the Auburn area or in the near future in the Syracuse area, whenever that comes to be, stop in at Simple Roast. I'm telling you, it is one of the greatest, if not the greatest cup of coffee you'll ever have. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.